Hello everyone, this is day number 4 of Olympiad and this is a new recap, and this time it will be devoted to only one match, which is US versus Ukraine match on the first board. Yesterday we did recap about Norway team. Today this is going to be devoted only to this particular match. And everybody expected US win, maybe even easily. I expected, yeah, most likely yes, Ukraine might have chances for a draw, but it's pretty hard to compete against the team where Fabiano Caruana on the first board, Wesley Saw on the second, but unexpectedly it wasn't enough. And after this game, there is the question, could really US bring somebody stronger, like for example Hans Niemann or Hikaru Nakamura, who probably didn't want to play, and this would be the players who really could enhance team. So what happened? Let's go through all the 4 games to figure out what are problems, what mistakes, who was the weak part of the US team. And the first match is pretty exciting. Fabiano Caruana versus Andrei Volokitin, who I played myself even twice. One lost, one draw. But I mean, Fabiano Caruana, everybody knows him. What about Andrei? He is a pretty dynamical player. He can play very, very strong, especially on Olympiads and team events. He's always pretty good. But on the first board, it's not the best choice because he has pretty aggressive style, and also he sits in the time troubles very often, as we will see in this game, which might, well, I mean, really play against him. So let's get started. E4, c5, knight f3, d6. That's the main weapon of Andrei, and I don't like neither on the first board because it's pretty responsible board, and I've been complaining about it already before, especially against such expert and theoretical nerd like Fabiano Caruana. So neither is played. Many options, again 15 moves possible for white, and here Fabiano choosing bishop d3, very modern meta way of playing. It looks weird to put the bishop in the sandwich between these two pawns, but idea behind it is that after typical knight e5 move, knight wants to go to e2, and later we will have an opportunity to play knight d5, maybe even climb with both of our knights to the outpost. And in case of e6, later on we might have some attack going. So the move is pretty poisoned, I would say. In the game, g6 was played. Right now, again, one of the best responses, with an idea to play in a dragon style where bishop d3 move is pretty useless because the bishop is looking nowhere. f3 was played. This all have been played many times. Queen b6, one of the ways, along with knight c6, bishop g7, but queen b6 is the strongest. Knight b3. Another way is kind of tricky to play a3 right here, trying to kind of lure opponent into this free knight situation, but then the queen will be lost, and then trying to play bishop e3. But Caruana plays the most reliable way. Knight bd7, queen e2, and actually this position happened in Volokitin's game this year in April, I believe, against some lower rated 2350 opponent, and probably Caruana knew about that, so he plays pretty confidently. Bishop e3, g4, b5. So far it's all the theory, all the moves are forced. Knight comes to d5, which is a great outpost for a horse, but we need to keep in mind that this knight can be or eliminated or attacked. Queen d8 was played, castle on, bishop b7. That's already the moment where Andrei started taking time, and bishop b7 in general is a fine move. Maybe a little bit better was castle to the word of theory, and right here Fabiano, after thinking for 15 minutes, I remember the quote of the coach of Caruana: when Fabiano thinks more than 20 minutes, he will play the worst move possible, which is exaggeration, of course, but still funny fact. This time he played pretty fine move, queen e1, but I mean, I'm surprised because this is the game Andrei played this year, and you prepare for the game, and he plays the most natural moves, and you're like, okay, time to think. Queen e1, idea is to play knight a5 later, force the bishop to take, and have this awesome outpost on c6. For example, maybe queen d2 was a little bit better according to the engine, but it doesn't really matter. After queen e1, computer here recommends playing castle short, but after knight a5 it all looking pretty dangerous, so black played e6, which is not really a mistake right here. Chess.com engine definitely trolling, and I mean game analysis, because this move is totally fine. Yeah, you weaken d6 pawn and make it backward, but you're removing this super annoying knight on d5. Sometimes people, by the way, sacrifice this knight to have some check, but it's not definitely this I mean, not in this move order. Knight f4, knight f4, bishop f4, and right now knight comes to e5, which is a great square because from here we attack end f3 and we want to go to c4, and plus the bishop don't have an access to d6 anymore. And right now for white it's not that easy to play because the best move was still knight a5 with a very interesting idea that after knight f3 we can, let's say, go queen b4 attacking and the pawn and the bishop, and the king is still in the center, which is very problematic. Rook b8 would be a lesser evil, and right here Fabiano needed to find h4, which is a very bold move with an idea to play h5 and later maybe potentially h6 or take, trying to be prepared for castling short and setting up an attack earlier. And again, after knight f3, queen b4 gives perfect chances. But Caruana plays the most human move bishop e2, which doesn't correspond to the spirit of the position. Rook c8, right now black already catches initiative, queen b4 attacking the weakness with the rook and the queen, and here comes d5, and this is an incredible move. And remember when I said that Andrei likes to be in the time trouble? He already has 15 minutes, and it's after 19 moves. This is for me typical situation as well, but this will play a very bad joke on him. Idea after d5 is that after, let's say, simple capture, we have knight c4, and this knight creates perfect connection with the bishop, and black actually starts cooking. Fabiano plays c3 to neutralize this bishop in the future, but it doesn't stop black to continue playing. Queen e7, another incredible move. I emphasize this move is really awesome because this move stops us from castling. This queen is reliable defender, and after swapping off queens from the board, we will have just better pieces because pieces of white are discoordinated and not very well organized. Caruana didn't find anything better than trade, which of course tempting, and here he spent 15 minutes or even more on thinking. And after ed, bishop takes d5, this pawn is in danger, and defending it would be possible, but it's a bit too slow, plus black can try to find another weakness and improve rooks. So Fabiano goes for counterplay, and this is a great idea, even though Chess.com again trolling, because when you have worse position, you need to create pressure on your opponent, you need to look for a chaos. And the idea of this move is that first of all we have bishop c5 check, secondly we have knight c5 move attacking this pawn, hoping for some rook d7 ideas as well. And right here, this was the critical moment where Andrei had 8 minutes on the clock and he chose poorly, unfortunately. He played bishop f3, which is not a critical mistake, but he burned all his time and played this move when he had 8 seconds on the clock, which is not very responsible decision when you play for a team. Way better was to play h6. Why is it so? Because after h4, hg, rook h1, we trade pair of rooks, which is a typical idea when you play an endgame to play for a win. And then after knight f3, white is not in time with the counterplay, plus there is a discovered attack. Instead, in the game, bishop f3, knight f3, and white is just in time to play knight c5 to have a threat on a6, and at the same time rook d7. So it allows a lot of initiative. It provides white with a lot of activity, initiative, and all the stuff. And black's position is still better, but when you have 1 minute on the clock and to the time control you need to play 16 moves, it's a roller coaster. And you don't want to end up in such situation when you play Fabiano Caruana. Rook d8 was played, knight takes a6. Right here there was a cute move, bishop d4, which of course not a move for time trouble, with an idea to later try to attack the pawn and try to push his own pawn forward. Rook d1, normal move, rook takes d1, and right here there was a critical mistake of the game, because black decided to take knight h2, which led to direct attack on the king. Instead, what was better to do is to play bishop e5, trying to attack this pawn. If white tries to defend and after bishop d6, we might ask how is the knight doing on the edge of the board. If, for example, the same bishop c5, we go here and we're doing good, there is no follow-up, the bishop controls a lot of important squares around the king, And in any other situations, this pawn will drop and the position will be complicated, but black is clearly better. Instead, knight h2, bishop check, bishop d6, critical move attacking the knight, and then knight c7. And this important pawn could fall first. Secondly, right now we can barely move because always we need to keep in mind that there is a discovered attack. Not yet because this knight could fall, but after knight b5. And after rook c7, bishop c7, knight g5, game went on, but in the time scramble and being like +5 in the position for black is not easy to play. And right here, actually, I buried all the hopes of Ukraine to score somehow in this match because, I mean, kind of one of the decisive games. Could Andrei hold black color right here? And he couldn't. And yeah, on the other board, situation wasn't better. But let's see what was happening there. Let's go next. And the next game is Vasil Ivanchuk against Vasily So. Right here, I was expecting like some subtle draw because Vasily can play pretty solid. So is, I don't know, the wall. It's very hard to break him. Doesn't matter he plays white, black, he will anywhere find a draw. And what happened? Nimzo Indian, nothing super scary, but queen c2. Idea of this move is that after capture we don't want to spoil our structure but want to retake with the queen. Also it prepares some e4 move in the future, but Ivanchuk didn't play this way. He played a3, trying to get the bishop pair, and this position is incredibly sharp. It's like, you know, some storm is coming very, very soon, even though right now there is no tiny cloud in the sky. Knight f3, dc, queen takes. Again, nothing scary. Bishop g5, bishop a6, queen a4. This was all the series. This was the first moment where So was sitting for 15 minutes thinking how to continue. I'm pretty sure he knew the theory, but he was trying to understand what line he wants to play, and he chose queen d7, offering a queen trade. Chucky goes queen c2 because we don't want to trade queens, because we want to rather attack. We have a bishop pair, and c5, great way to play because king is in the center. We want to undermine the center, and right here where all the main stuff begins. dc, rook c8, and right here White has two valid options, whether to take or play rook d1. In the game, rook d1 was played, which is not the best response, probably not the main theory. Bishop f6 leads to more interesting positions, even though, I mean, it's like double-edged position. Of course, it might end in a draw if we trade bishops, trade pawns, and shake hands. But in the game, rook d1 was played. Not the easiest road Ivanchuk chose to play for a win right here, because what will happen next will definitely shock you. Queen e7 was played, and ready after e4 still. It's an opportunity to make things simple. Queen a4 happens in the game. Black decides to take bc, while let's say bc and, for example, not rook c5. It's a good question, but I assume that there might be bishop f6 idea, and if queen takes, there is the mate, and if gf, the king is open, so Wesley tries to play as solid as possible. And then what happens in the game out of nowhere? h4. Could you imagine that? I was pretty shocked when I saw it. I thought that it's some preparation, but no. It's a genius who creates masterpiece. His mind tells him to do so, so he plays h4. Idea of this move is to begin an attack. And ideally, if we play h5, h6, and our opponent plays g6, it would be awesome because there will be a pin. But too much time we need to spend for this. Also, we can play g4 and continue attacking this way, but it's very adventurous again for the team event, especially after yesterday games where Vasily lost and almost led his team down by blundering the fork. Happens sometimes. And by the way, the funny story about that, I saw a lot of Ukrainian chess players, amateurs, even like grandmasters, saying that probably he needs to leave the road to young players. He doesn't need to play already for the team in such old age, because it's not the first time when he blunders like that. And after this game, I wanna hear their thoughts. What do they think about it? Because performance of Ivanchuk here would speak for itself. So, what happened? Rook h3. A cool move. You did not expect it as well, probably, but the idea is to bring the rook to the game. Later, we might have some rook maneuvers, plus on h1, if the bishop goes to b7, it will be under pin. h6, and right now bishop is attacked, and first instinct is to go back. Let's say bishop d2, and then after knight e4, we can go here, and then we can proceed with our plan, playing g4, g5. Probably queen c5 set some problems again with knight e4, knight g4 ideas, and then after trading queens we are fine. Engine shows like zeros in many lines. But Chucky is not thinking this way. Queen c2 was played. Yeah. Piece, who cares? Doesn't matter at all. HG, and we deliver mate right here. It's not, of course, what Wesley played. He just said, okay, I'm not gonna take your bishop. You wanna play this mind games, I'm ready. Right hook, left hook, and yeah, this is like some really mind games battle. Right here in the game, knight d4 was played, which engine says that it's bad, but has a point, because somewhere black wanted to play c3, followed by queen a3, undermining queen side absolutely, all the pawn chain busted, not great. So this is a good prophylactical move. Other things that, again, engine's trolling, not understanding the whole greatness of the game. Probably g4 was objectively better, but then this position, I mean, you're just struggling for a draw without any counterplay, and it's not definitely what you expect from white. So he goes knight d4. Right now c3 is not working, but black could just simply try to improve pieces, try to create pressure, and white with undeveloped king side, with king there in the center, it would be really hard to do something. Instead, bishop b7 was played, typical move for Wesley, pretty like improving, not rushing. In the game, bishop d2 was played. Maybe it made sense to play f3 to prevent any knight e4 and stuff invasions, but a5 was played. This is an attempt, as I understand, to prevent bishop a5 and fight for the open file. But right now, white plays f3, and this ridiculous move is ridiculously strong, because after it, we prepare e4 move, and pawn chain is absolutely stunning. It blocks the bishop, it removes outpost for knights, and black really needed to hurry up, maybe even think about playing something like c3 here, knight d5, try to attack, use initiative. But instead, queen c5 was played, and you might object, okay, it's an attack, but it goes right under bishop e3 or bishop c3 again. Engine has his own version. Bishop c3 was better because it reinforces our position nicely, but I guess again after knight d5 our position might be not that great, or any other moves, again some knight d5 ideas. Bishop e3 creates different discovered attacks on the queen. c3 finally played, and black takes with the queen, and right now the best move was apparently queen f8, moving the queen out of any danger with an idea try to improve the pieces, look for outposts. But this is typical engine move. This game cannot be comprehended this way, because it's like on the other level of understanding, because humans play, machines suck. Queen takes c3, bc, rook takes c3, bishop c1, and finally the storm moving away to another city. Right now there is a still. And in this position, bishop a6 was played to prevent e4 to trade light square bishop, because there are a lot of holes on the queen side related to light squares, like c4 for instance. And right here, probably g4 was the best, but Ivanchuk not afraid. And as practice shows, this was a good decision. Rook c8, trying to double up rook's attack c1, bishop b2, rook probably should have gone to c7, but it went to c5. The difference is microscopic. I don't think that's the main mistake. G4 is played, just grabbing space, preparing G5 later. Knight B6, Rook H2, another plus of G4 moves that Rook connects on the second rank. Knight C4, King E1, Knight takes, and Rook C3. Wesley continues applying pressure because he wants to win. He probably realizes that he cannot lose at this moment because he's the one who attacks. But hold on, we'll come to this interesting point. Both of the players fine with time management, which is weird. Both has like 10 minutes for 9 moves, and somebody would say, what, 10 minutes for 9 moves? Believe me, it's not 1 minute for 25 moves. It's all right. a4 was played. Then rook goes to a3, attacking this pawn over there. Rook goes to b6 with very nice idea to lock the rook of black in their camp and prepare a fork. So really neat maneuver. It's not what engine recommends, but I really love this move. And right now, let's say after rook of a4, knight c6, we have a fork. King f8 doesn't help instantly because we can go this way trying to go that later rook d7, and our knight apparently is invincible because then we deliver the mate, linear mate with both of our rooks. King h7 also wasn't great, but I mean, let's skip this part. Rook d8 was played, being prepared for knight c6. Rook b5 happens because right now if like knight c6 we most likely drop f3 pawn and then the whole pawn chain, so this knight is fundamental, he cements the position. Rook b5 again, take it possible, but then after knight c6 we got counterplay. For example, rook a4, knight c6, we got some check and we got knight e5 with some cute mating ideas on the back rank. In the game, g6 happened, maybe trying to play 5 later, more likely try to have a window for the king to escape. Knight b3 attacking a5, rook c8, king e2, rook c4. Right now pawn is in real danger, but Ivanchuk spots an opportunity to infiltrate rook d8. Then he goes g5, and right here already Wesley tries to show his skills. He has huge balls in this moment. He sacrifices the knight to get activity, to get 3 pawns for it, because, for example, if he moved, let's say, to h5 somewhere, there will be mating idea, because king has big problems with defending himself alone. Knight e4 takes, and that's it. Move 41, that's it. Probably gonna be a draw. Knights for 3 pawns. Should be enough for both players to stay alive. I was thinking, I hope Ivanchuk will not lose, but what you will see next probably will shock you, because in few moves, position just changing, just like turning upside down, absolutely. Knight d4, knight goes to the center. Right now, black could try to hope for some linear mate, and then white would have to defend like rook e5, then rook e2, and my screen a bit lagging. Not Wesley, just so. Rook a2 was played instead, and right here. It was a very important moment because right here we needed to decide which rook to check with. And Wesley chose wrong. He played rook a3. Better was to go with another rook, because then there might be perpetual, and after knight f3 there is a brilliant rook before idea, offering a rook trade, and if white declines we can win the knight by using the pin on the third rank. Rook a3 instead was played, rook 4 to a3, knight f3, and right now after rook e2, rook b7 comes, and apparently the king is in trouble, and rook e3 idea is not working because we have rook f7. There is a chance to stay alive somehow, but it's already very hard. Wesley plays rook e5, no, he's not blundering the rook because there is a pin, but after rook f7, g5, h5, king takes, rook f6. This is it, this is kill zone. King is mated. Great performance. I have no words, actually. Didn't expect it from Ivanchuk. Well, I mean, how old is he? 54, 55, winning against Saw. He's not that great lately, and in classics in classics he's very robust, very solid. It's hard to win, and when the city needs a hero, here he is. So it's 1-1, and we come to the next game. And the next game probably is the most boring of all. So yeah, I know how to attract viewers. Yeah, because right here, Linnea Dominguez playing against Ponomariov. Both are very solid, very positional players in my opinion, and this game perfectly represents it. So it all started with Italian, not Rui Lopez, pretty solid. A5 played to prevent b4, but with b4 position we'll see in the next game. Rook e1, bishop a7. This bishop goes away from potential attacks. h3 prevents knight g4 jump. castle, bishop b5. This move is pretty weird, trying to create some pressure. Also removes the bishop out of d5 zone, because d5 is a pretty often move that black plays in the position. Bishop d7, bishop a4. Actually, right here, Dominguez spent like more than 20 minutes, and both of the players probably out of the books. They like playing logically. Knight e7, super standard maneuver, because we want to bring our knights closer to the king side, because we potentially can even continue jumping. Bishop goes to c2, because you don't want to really trade this bishop very often, because normally we have more space and we want to play d4, and this bishop can be a good support. Knight g6, d4, rook e8, knight bd6, and black is pressuring. Black with all the pieces try to play against the center. Almost everybody participates in this attack. White plays a4. I don't know, not needed move, but okay, trying to prevent some space seizing and stuff like this. h6, bishop d3, knight f4, bishop f1. This maneuver tend to be logical, because on c2 we're right now looking at the pawn. From f1 we can later go to g2, plus we defend this pawn, therefore we can play g3, therefore knight cannot really plant himself for ages on a4, g5, g3, knight g6. So for white it's pretty difficult to decide what to do, so Linear plays right here queen c2, reinforcing the center, and here was the critical moment for Ponomariov. He has the time lead, he has a lot of pressure, his position is better. And what he decided to do in this position? Blows things up without any logic. Why do you do it? It's like, when you have some advantage positional, when you have pressure, do not rush to convert it into something, because right here d5 is kind of snap call, because it's too fast, and sometimes threat can be better than the execution. For example, engine recommends here queen c8, which is a weird move, but totally makes sense, trying to apply pressure on h3. And let's say white cannot easily move because there is a danger of the pawn being captured. d5 creates problems and opens up a7 bishop, and let's say after bishop g2 we can play bishop d7 and prepare g4, starting an attack. And keeping in mind what situation was on other boards, it would be a good optimal decision, because we can continue playing against the center and all our pieces apparently attacking when white hasn't finished development yet. Instead, d5 was played after 12 minutes of thinking, and it led to the better position for white, because white just, okay, I'm taking the pawn, show me what you got. And Ponomariov got nothing. I don't know, maybe it was miscalculations, maybe he misjudged his position, maybe he thought it's better than it looks. But after queen f5, it's not looking better than it is, it's worse. And like white has +1 right here. And after c6, queen goes to h5, Dominguez is already down to 5 minutes, but he really wants to attack, because you don't want to push your pawns in front of your king, because you can make him weaker. And then after king g7, knight f3, already this is the sacrifice. And after f6, with 4 minutes and 52 seconds on the clock, Dominguez blunders. He plays bishop e3, and you can say, how can you blunder removing strong piece of the opponent for the piece who already hasn't been really that well placed? But the reason is that after bishop f7, queen here, bishop e6, white has nothing better but to repeat the moves, because queen e4 doesn't help. This chase continues. After bishop d5, queen has nowhere to run. We will get it anywhere. And right here, even knight e5, and black already seized the initiative. So bishop e6 is a great move. What instead white needed to do in this position? I think that Grandmaster of 2750 caliber should find such moves, and this is knight h4, which is a stunning move, because after gh we have an incredible attack. We can or bishop h6, which probably is the right one, or queen h6, and position speaks for itself. We're like attacking really nicely. So there is no good way to stop it. The best move computer recommends queen e7, which is insane. And after bishop e3, game ended in a draw, and I was like with a relief, phew, finally, at least like that. And we go to the last game. Right now it's 1.5 against 1.5, and this was the last game, Korobov versus Ray Robson. And let's imagine right here, for example, Hans Niemann, yeah, or Hikaru Nakamura. It would be way different emotions, right? Oh, sorry, you didn't meant to see it. So let's see the game over here from the very start. Even though Ray Robson higher rated than Korobov, I think that Korobov will be the favorite right here in all the matchups because despite the difference in 50 points, Korobov is like very aggressive player. He can bend everybody, he can win everybody, he can lose to many people as well. But when he's in a good shape, and in this tournament he can outplay everybody. And Ray doesn't have a lot of practice, and lack of practice right here also probably played some role. Korobov plays e4. I know him more as, let's say, d4 player and closed openings, but right here he decided maybe to surprise his opponent. Let's see, was he really surprised? So again, Italian, as promised. Okay, it's two knights variations, but nobody in the sane mind plays knight g5 on the top level. If you, let's say, I don't know, 1000, 2000 ratings, play easily, no problem. There are a lot of traps and stuff like that. Right here, castle, d6, c3. We've seen it many times. H6 black plays. Why does black play it? It's an interesting moment because this move is a prophylaxis against bishop g5 move. And that's what Alireza has been using successfully a lot. He won many interesting games with different sacrifices. To my mind comes a game against Anish Giri. I don't remember what was the tournament, probably some Rapid or something, maybe St. Louis, maybe before, probably before, maybe even Norway chess. So he has been playing it successfully, which leads to very complicated positions. Let's say after castle, bishop g5, h6, here g5, and I don't know, maybe Ray was thinking that Korobov plays it. I didn't know what was in their mind, what both of the teams expected. So h6 was played. But h6 allows another interesting idea, which is before. As I said before, a5 in the game of Ponomariov was played right against this idea, and then a4 which is a good way to pressure. A5, B5, knight to7, and normally right here people go something like knight BD2 and then move the bishop away to play knight C4, or maybe play D4, which Caruana tried against Alireza with white pieces and lost, even though it wasn't fair, he could definitely avoid such misfortune. In the game, bishop e3 happened, and this was a prep of Korobov or maybe Ukrainian team. Don't know all the details. Idea is that after capture, we have the rook open. And right here for black, it's not very easy to play, and this is not like the main way to continue, so it probably surprised Robson. The best move right here is probably, okay, knight g6 is a standard maneuver, but in this position, probably it was worth trying to undermine the center somehow to attack e3, and after queen e1, battle goes on. Potentially white can play like e4 somewhere or a d4. White has more mass in the center, but it's hard to convert it because black controls with their pieces a little bit more. Instead, c6 was played, which is standard for such positions, trying to play d5 to block the bishop. And c4 comes, another great move, trying to close the center to create opportunities for attacks on the king side. And black says, I don't care at all, like, what, you play c4, I will play d5. And do not follow instructions of Ray Robson because he's keen in the center. What you doing? He just needed to play castle, then try to develop, and then see what white got. Will white play d4, queen e1, and play from it? But d5, so it's like all part of the plan, which is their own plan. And here, amazing play by Korobov. Ed, cd, c5. Right now, he has perfect pawn on c5 that later can be a protected passed pawn, outside passed pawn, depending on the position. Right here it's already very hard to play, and next move marked as a mistake, but bishop e6 will not remove all the problems, which is the weakness on d5 that white can easily attack, and the c pawn that we could push. And queen e7 was played. d4, black tries desperately to create some activity. White choosing amazing move knight c3. Idea is that after knight c3 we have knight d5 and we do not really lose, because if we continue this line we can see that a white center is perfect and the king stuck in the middle. Bishop e6 was played instead. Queen e1, right here Anton missing great opportunity to play e4, which would be really nice because after d, we can, let's say, take, play d4, d5, and then continue with knight e4, knight d6, which is almost absolutely winning. Or let's say after ed, we can play knight d5 immediately. Maybe something confused him, and it's not me to judge. Instead, queen e1 was played. Pretty good move to make position look stronger, not blunder a pawn on e3. e4 was played, knight d2, queen c7. Always pay attention to the last moves of your opponent, because right here we can clearly see that mate is cooking. Better was a little bit to play g3 to keep queens on the board, but actually I more prefer way of Korobov rather than the engine, because when you're being attacked and this is the only source of the counterplay of your opponent, you want to trade off queens. And after this trade, white's position is way better. And this pawn is not hanging as you might think, because after rook e1, knight moves, knight d5, again, the center is like domino, falls all over the place. Knight e7 was played to defend the pawn. White defends the pawn on e3, h5, bishop d1 to put pressure on the knight. Knight goes back, b6 in another incredible move with an idea to prepare an outpost for the knight, to have some outpost and forks and so on and so on. So black is under constant pressure. Right now pawn on g3 attacked, king defends it. White is not rushing with knight b5 because the bishop might take it. Who knows? Probably king e7 most likely would happen. Rook h1, looking for another weakness on the other flank. Let's say right now there is a g4 opportunity everywhere because this rook is hanging. Rook h6 prevents it. Right here actually there was bishop h5 move leading to interesting fork, which is better by serious margin for white. Instead, in the game, rook h2 was played, which is clearly not a mistake, trying to double up, and after g6, g4 will be an option. Bishop c6, rook h1, king e7, and white picks up a free pawn. But black had something in mind, which is rook h5, knight g4, trying to give up an exchange, but find a way to find some counterplay. Probably better was to go king g1, avoiding different forks like it was with e1. Knight b3, defending the pawn, and trade here. It's very hard to play. Let's say this pawn is hanging, but then there is rook h8. There are blow-minded complications in the game. It's hard to blame black because black tries to defend the knight. White plays rook h8 trying to trade pieces because it's a basic rule. Trade pieces when you up material. Knight c2 and trade here. This is actually a big mistake that Korobov makes. He plays king d2. Both of the opponents are around time trouble. Robson already in the serious time trouble. He's down to 1 minute and a half. Better was to play king d1. And this is all because after knight d4, rook takes, knight b3 doesn't come with the check in this line. Or we can take knight d4 as well. Because after king d2, knight d4, white could play knight d4 right here, and then after rook h8 play rook f1, which is not that easy to spot, and black clearly has some activity over there. Korobov decided to play rook a8, and then after knight b3, it's a really funny position. Even though white has two rooks for two minor pieces and some pawns, it's very not easy to play. And right here, this was the final mistake by Robson. He got tempted to take the pawn, time trouble, easy pawns, why not? Better was to go knight d4, which could keep the balance, and right now after knight c5 it would be way better. Let's say if we take, there is knight db3 continuing an attack, but this intermediate move was missing, and white played perfect move rook f1, and after king e5 rook f5 comes, removing all the activity, and this is it. This is like technical part. Game moved on, but it's rather torturous, and the fact that it's already beyond for its move and time was added doesn't save American team, and that's how Ukraine outplayed Team USA, which is kind of sensation, I would say, and I'm proud for my country, of course. But would that happen if, let's say, Hikaru Nakamura played, or let's say Aronian didn't play kind of poorly, because the whole US team kind of all over the place. They're not like concentrated, motivated, in my opinion. Only Caruana, like the working horse, trying to carry the team, like Magnus do with Norway, even though some players trying to make him go down from his own team. So yeah, like these players, in my opinion, would definitely make the team better. US could easily fight for the first place, but right now, probably medals would for them be an amazing result because if you cannot outplay Ukraine, what will be with India, Uzbekistan, who lost to Vietnam, so probably not the greatest example, or China. But yeah, I wish anyway both teams all the best. Please comment down below, like and subscribe because this video was uh, not expected today because I mean I wouldn't record it if some sensation didn't happen. Plus, my friend Vladimir wanted to be on the podcast and things didn't go as expected. So please support our motivation to push content for you, to create content for you, and see you probably tomorrow for the next episode of our recap. Goodbye.